back with Dr. Jayaka Campbell. Dr. Campbell, I'm going to bring my mic over to you, and I want you to, in 60 seconds or so, introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about the Climate Studies Group at Mona and the work that you do. By the way, the Climate Studies Group is celebrating its 30-year anniversary, which I think is awesome. Give them a round of applause, please.
I prefer standing. So here goes. 60 seconds starts now. Hi, I am Jay Campbell. Please just call me Jay. I'm a member of the Climate Studies Group, Mona. What we do is everything climate. Now, there's one aspect of climate that people tend to miss. Climate touches every facet of our lives. Health, agriculture, livelihoods, or living. Everything has to do with climate. And so what we do is actually look at how climate affects our daily lives, how climate is expected to affect our lives in 60, 90, 30, number of years from now, so we can actually plan for the changes that are about to occur. So we've gotten warmer, but what happens to us in 30 years? What happens to us in 60 years? How would that affect electricity? How would that affect the policies that we have? So that's it.
Check. All right, keep it, Dr. J, because I have more questions for you. So you're telling us 60, 40, 30 years ahead. How about now, 2024? How is Jamaica and our climate? How is it?
All right, so if you're going to be talking about now, there are a few things you have to consider. What was my climate before 2024? And when we talk about climate, we talk about things in terms of a 30-year chunk, 20 to 30 years. Because you can have variability, which means the climate going up and down or the weather going up and down. What we're interested in is what is that average state? That average state is what we call climate and what those shifts are. So if we're looking at now in terms of a climate sense, we are warmer than we were in the 60s. We are warmer than we were in the 90s. Rainfall patterns, we can't say anything about rainfall drying out entirely, but what we can say is we go longer periods without rainfall, but when rainfall does occur, it makes up for all the days it never fell, which means we go from periods without rainfall to periods where everywhere is likely to flood. So I'm hoping that makes sense.
It does, and it keeps in the forefront of our minds the point that weather is what's happening now. No. Climate is over, what you said, 30 years or so.
20 to 30 years.
20 to 30 years. Okay, so based on the projections for the next 60, 75 years, what are the careers that you think young people should now be exploring? Because they're going to be in highest demand to respond to the effects of climate change.
I'm going to start a little bit controversially. First and foremost, physics explains how things work. It explains that the unseen, the things that we don't necessarily consider. And there are typical equations for those. But as we now start looking at climate and its intersection to many sectors, data starts growing. So if you're in computing and you're a big data specialist, climate has applications for you. If you're in health and you're wondering, how it is that, my patients are going to be handling their asthma, arthritis, anything linked to climate, leptospirosis, dengue, all of those things, we can set up early warning systems and track those, again, with little bit of climate. There is a wonderful field that is called climate modeling, that's what I'm a part of, that looks at generating those projections into the future. And with that, you need either physics or computing or computational physics or just math. Any one of the sciences would leverage themselves towards you doing modeling. So the simple pathway is find sciences or a science or math that you enjoy, and that will give you a massive avenue into solving future climate problems.
I'm loving the sound of that. And then I'm going to take it from the persons who are already loving math and who are good at math and physics, because there are some of us that aren't in that group, but we still, as average citizens, have a role to play, I'm assuming. how important is it for the average me to be involved in this whole climate research agenda?
The average you, the concept coming from a Jamaican proverb that one cocoa full basket, where that full basket is our solution. If we each chip in, let's say there's some data there's a weather station that needs to be placed somewhere. If it's to be placed on your property, say yes, because that data will eventually be used in a national setting to facilitate how we do planning. If there is practices, household practices, mitigative practices, so using less plastics, carpooling, there are a number of things that we can do as individuals to say we are being better stewards of our environment and as such accounting for climate change.
And that sounds like what an average citizen or the average student can do. So you've brought it right down to how we can contribute to the whole thing. Thank you so much, Dr. J. Campbell.
No
Appreciate it. Now, folks, it's time to harass the gentleman from JPS, if I remember correctly. It's, well, hold on, let me be absolutely sure that I'm going with the gentleman before the lady. Hang on. We are actually going to the lady. So, Madame Natalie, I'm going to hand, all right, there we go. Natalie Johnson is our next presenter. She's from Environmental Solutions Limited. Could you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do, what Environmental Solutions Limited does?
Hello, everyone. I'm Natalie Johnson, as you heard. I'm the Senior Policy Specialist at Environmental Solutions Limited. And we are a full-service environmental consulting firm. So we provide services for environmental management, environmental health and safety, and we have a new arm called Biotech, which does regenerative agriculture and utilizes drone technology.
I love the way that it summarizes nicely. Can you give me maybe some concrete examples for each of those areas?
Sure. So a concrete example for the Environmental Health and Safety Unit, they can go into office spaces and check the air quality and make sure that everyone's able to breathe in a healthy manner. They can do testing for water, air, noise, soil. So they test food systems as well to make sure your food is safe. In terms of the biotech unit, they have drones that will fly over fields. For example, when you're coming down the new highway and you see that lovely orange orchard, as soon as you come through into that valley, our drones patrol that area, test for any pests, and make sure that they spray any chemicals where they're needed, versus traditionally you would spray the entire field. So we're more environmentally conscious using drones to do fertilizer application and pesticide application. And then my unit, was where I work, in environmental management services, we write the reports. So we do environmental impact assessments, we do climate resilience work, we do disaster risk management work. We're a full service suite firm that does look at every aspect of the environment holistically.
I love the explanations. I can see someone in each of those roles. Are there any roles in that area that you think would not be immediately obvious to a student thinking about working in that area?
Well, when you think of the environment, you definitely think of the scientists, like we just heard, and the mathematicians, but there's people like me that can do maths but don't love it. I love to read, I love words. So I have to write reports. But not only that, there's a social aspect to the environment because you're looking at it holistically. So we have to go into communities and talk to communities and find out what they value about the environment, how they feel about changes. If you want to put up a hotel structure, you have to do an environmental impact assessment. So we have to write surveys to go and interview people. We have to have town halls. And so you need to have good social skills. You need to have research skills. There's many different aspects in terms of the computers, which look at GIS, for example, Geographic Information Systems. We have engineers, we have chemists, we have ecologists on the team, because you have to look at every single aspect of the environment if you really want to do proper environmental monitoring, planning, and things like that.
How accessible are these career areas? For someone, it's sounding nice, it sounds good. Is it easy to get into these spaces?
I think it is, because when you look at the environment, it encompasses almost every aspect of life. So you can come into it from a different angle. Everyone in our team has a different educational background. For example, I did geography in undergraduate. You have other people that did biology. You have people that did geology. So there are so many ways that you can access the field. I would just say stay in school and find your passion.
And staying in school is one thing, geography generally, sciences, physics, etc. Are there any recommendations you have for tools or programs, technology, software that you have found useful in this environmental climate change space that perhaps it would be good for the students to go research, check out, and learn?
Well, I do know that I think video games, playing video games helps your manual dexterity. So when you want to man a drone, you're not going to crash a vehicle that costs thousands of dollars. So that's one way. In terms of tools, we use AI to help us speed up some of the work that we need to do. Also, regular skills like Canva. You need to make your reports look pretty. If your reports are ugly, nobody wants to read them. So you need to be able to summarize your information and present it in a way that's attractive and useful. So those are some of the everyday skills that we use on our job.
And those are skills that persons can work on now, even outside of school. I love that. Thank you so very much.
And the one last thing, which is what you emulate, is being a good communicator. Because you can't get people passionate about the environment. You can't get a client to understand the value of doing something a little bit more expensive up front to have a better environmental impact down the road if you are not a clear communicator. So being able to get your points across clearly, be able to understand other people's points of view, those are essential parts of being a good environmental manager.
And skills that can be practiced on the way to the career. Thank you. All right, give our Environmental Solutions Limited representative, Natalie Johnson, a round of applause, please. As we step across to Carl Cohen from JPS. Now, Mr. Cohen, could you, in the 60 seconds, tell us a little about you and the work you do at the JPS?
Thanks, Paul. Morning, everybody. I hope you're having a good time, and once again, I want to thank you for coming out to being a part of this momentous occasion. I'm Carl Cohen, and I'm the manager for the System Control Department. Now, what does that mean? It simply means that I lead a group of highly talented engineers in power in Jamaica. We control all of the power that is produced, transmitted, distributed, and utilized by you, the customers.
Thank you. They're calling and pulling me across there. Now, as you understand the JPS, what are some of the career opportunities, not just at JPS, but also in the wider industry that you think are in highest demand at this time?
Okay, Paula. So, right now in the energy landscape, we're going through a revolution. It's the energy revolution. And the traditional fossil fuel plants and this massive, big network, all of those are changing rapidly. Now we're looking into spaces of decentralized grids. We're looking into spaces of microgrids. We're looking into renewable energy as a big part of our power product. And with that, will require skills. So areas such as renewable energy engineering, you're talking about in order for renewables to be a big part of any grid, you're going to need energy storage. Similar to your cell phone requires a battery. And energy storage is similar on a larger scale. So engineers for energy storage, and with all of this change in climate comes change in consumer pattern, and then we'll have a lot of data. So persons who are good with artificial intelligence, that's where the industry is moving towards. And this is just really to name a few.
I like the way that you've been specific. Energy storage, renewable energy, artificial intelligence. Are there any certifications that the students could think about working toward? Any particular certifications, or just general studies in these areas would be good?
All right, the good thing about engineering is that the foundation is where everything is built from. So in high school, we have electrical technology, we have the physics and the math, and I didn't do physics in CXC, so don't worry. For all of those like Paula, yeah, if you don't like physics, there are ways and means of, still acquiring the knowledge. Now, other areas such as, everything that I heard about here, climate, and all those big data management, those are also areas in which, it would be
They
great
can look
to-
for certifications. Final question for you is about the Power Up Energy Clubs. We had a chance to chat earlier. Could you share how JPS is using the Power Up Energy Clubs to prepare students to enter into this world?
All right, so the Power Up Energy Club, which some of the members are here, the main goal of the Power Up Energy Club is to increase that knowledge base of the students. It's also to pique the interest of the students from as far back as the high school department. It also helps students in terms of just balancing and getting an introduction to the whole workforce requirement. So we're looking at, balancing their, managing their leadership skills, managing how they communicate. There's always this saying that engineers can't read, but they're good at math. So we're changing that narrative by, introducing them to public speaking engagements, career chats like this one and many others to help to guide them in a particular direction so that we'll keep this energy drive alive. And a lot of the new inventions and a lot of the cutting edge devices that are in our space actually came out of some high school projects that became university projects that form multi-billion-dollar companies in the future. And the Jamaican mindset, the Jamaican people are extremely creative and extremely innovative. And we want to tap into that untapped resource, and that's where the competitions come in. And from that, we can only see a bright, no pun intended, future
Pun
for
intended.
JPS.
Pun intended, pun intended. Thank you so much, Sir Johnson. A round of applause. Sir Cohen, a round of applause, please. So we now have a social media question that I'd love a response from each of you on. And it is, you don't see many ads for jobs in the climate space. So how do you suggest that young people like those here can network so that they can know how to be available or to know, to access these jobs? Dr. J, we're going to start with you. I'll hand my mic.
So I'm going to counter that to say it depends on where you look. Because every multilateral that is doing anything where climate is concerned, every single month they have a litany of jobs in climate.
So break that down for
By a
student
multilateral,
understanding. No.
we mean we're talking about the World Bank, we're talking about the UN, we're talking about even the regional banks. So before the regional banks, we're going to talk about CDB. We're going to also talk about IDB. And here's where it's funny. Because climate is becoming such an ever-present thing, it's now making its way into finance. So banks now have to consider their assets. So if they've given a loan to a hotel or a loan to a multi-structural development, they now have to have a climate expert within that financial institution that is evaluating risk. So not just the multilaterals, I've taken it from the global stage to the regional stage where you have the CDBs, you have CDB, Caribbean Development Bank, you have the Caribbean Center for Renewable Energy Excellence. So, and that's a regional scope, and they always have internships available every year. Outside of those internships, we can come back down to the national level where the banks are concerned, and they now have to consider climate in every way. So if you're doing econ, if you're doing econ or banking, whatever the discipline you're doing, there is a role there and there are jobs available. So notice I started from the UN and I worked my way down to the regional. Every year, the UN, and if you get in to the UN, it simply means you'd have been exposed and they have internships available. So there are ways there. Every year we take at least 3 interns, Caribbean Catastrophic Risk Investment Facility interns. They have a regional internship program.
Yeah, but what's your name? Lydia? Danadia? How is she going to know about that internship?
All right, so that is where I think there is a gap. The gap, there has to be one entity within the region, and I'm hoping my director is not hearing me, that actually hosts all of these. So if there's a Caribbean internship available, once it has anything to do with climate, all of those. So just in the way you have Indeed jobs, you have Indeed climate, so which means anything you're looking, any job you're looking for in climate, once it has anything to do with climate, is hosted in that space. So
I love that suggestion. Love that suggestion. So there's an opportunity here to create that central space for students to see. Now, until we get that central space, what is your suggestion? How can the students network and find out about these opportunities? I'm sorry, Mr. Cohen, it's you, Carl.
All right, so until we create that space, we are moving to, well, we're actually in the social media era. And there's a lot of information on social media. But as Jay rightfully says, it depends on where you're looking. And yes, I do see a gap as well in terms of communicating and getting through to, you know, a wider audience, and especially a younger, more distracted audience in terms of all of these new advancements. In JPS, the Energy Club is one that we use to get out such information. We also have internship programs on a yearly basis where we expose students after a tertiary education to different aspects of our, you know, network, different aspects of our business, so that we can pique that interest and also facilitate that transition to this world of work.
Thank you. And you are so right. There are so many of our students that are on social media platforms. So I guess it means they need to follow the right accounts so that the opportunities can show up in their feeds. And those accounts, I'm tying it into what you said, Dr. J, those accounts could be those organizations that you mentioned there. So we got it? Good. And now, ladies and gentlemen, let's see what ideas Madame Johnson has in terms of networking for students so they can get the chance.
Hi, so we've heard about going online, looking for internships on social media. We've heard about a future central social media or a job repository. And I want to advocate for the old-fashioned being bold. Walking up to somebody and saying, I'm interested, can I get a job? And I bring this up because right now I have an excellent intern that has been amazing help to me and has learned a lot about the field. And she sent her CV to our CEO. And the CV made its way to me, and I said, I'd love to hire this person. And she was fresh out of high school, and she got a 6 months internship with us. So you can use old school methods as well. If you see a firm that does work that you're interested in, approach them. Send them your CV. Send them a cover letter. Show them that you are passionate about the field. I see many organizations in this room right now that might have a space for a talented, passionate young person that doesn't even have to have completed their degree yet to get a good internship. So be bold, approach people that do things you're interested in and let them know that you'd like to work with them.
Thank you. And can we have a round of applause for all of our panelists, please?